Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steven, and we're here again with another episode of the GrownCast. It's episode 5, and today we're going to be talking about should have, could have, would have, and did. And so when I think about shoulda, coulda, woulda, and did, I think about a story in the Bible from Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 through 33. And it really talks about how how Jesus called Peter to come walk on the water. And Peter steps out and he begins to walk. But as soon as everything kind of started getting in the way and he took his eye off of Jesus, he began to drown and sink. And I think about that as we just spoke about move last week, where it's like we begin to move, but then doubt creeps in and doubt comes in. We begin to take our focus off of what is really important and what really matters. And it takes us from that place where we're headed to being able to say that we did, instead of it pushes us to that place where we say should have, could have, and would have. And so let's get into it. When I think about it, and I'm looking at it, and it really says like shoulda, coulda, woulda comes from a place of non-action. It comes from a place of saying, hey, I really felt strongly about this, but for some reason, I didn't do it. Maybe that reason is fear. Maybe that reason is doubt. Maybe that reason is a circumstance that you may not have been able to control. But a lot of times we say shoulda, coulda, woulda is something that we can control. And I know for me, I've had a situation like that in college where I was able to control my situation in college as far as my grades. And I had the opportunity to get a master's degree within 5 years, along with an undergraduate degree in industrial engineering. But I got into school and I felt that things were more important. And I didn't really have a chance to look back on it and think about it. I'm like, well, and when I look back on it and think about it after I graduated from college and my undergrad, it's like, well, dang, I could have had 2 degrees in pretty much the same amount of time what it took me to get one. And so I know for me, that was a situation where I was like, well, I should have, I could have, I would have. But I told myself, hey, look, I'm going to make sure that when the next time this opportunity comes around that I'm going to do. I refuse to be in that situation again where I look back and have to say, well, I should have, I could have, I would have. I want to be in a situation where I can say that I did. And I relate this to our life. I relate this to our walk with God. I relate this to our purpose. What can you do today? What can you do now? What can you be working on now to get you to that point where you can say that you did instead of you should have, or you could have, or you would have? It reminds me of a quote from Karen Lamb, and she says, a year from now, you will have wished you would have started today. And I know we talked about moves, so we're actually moving, and we're working on moving in our purpose and in our process and things of that nature. And it's like, okay, now I'm moving, but things come up, problems arise, fear comes up. Can I really do this? Am I really meant to do this? But when you keep your eye on Jesus and you keep your eye on what's really important and what's valuable, then you'll start to see, hey, when I focus on this, everything else is out there, it's still there, it's still scary, but he's getting me through this, he's guiding me. Just like when Peter was walking on the water. As long as Peter had his face set on Jesus and he was looking toward his Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, and everything was fine. It was still scary, things were still going on, but he was still walking on water. He was still making it. And as soon as he took his eye away, he began to sink and drown. So always remember that when we think about shoulda, coulda, woulda, did, you want to be in that place where shoulda, coulda, woulda is going to be there. Doubt's going to be there. Fear is going to be there. But you want to always be in that place to be able to say, you know what? When I look back a year from now, I'll be able to say I did. And always remember that to do that, you must keep your face on what is important. You must continue to look at your Lord and Savior. You must continue to work towards your purpose. So at the end of the day, you'll be able to look back in 50 years and say, you know what? I did. Thank you so much for another episode of the GrownCast.